Well, Andrew Peake is a former senior director for European and Russian affairs at the National Security Council. He's currently a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, and he joins us now live from Washington, D.C. Dr. Peake, what would you say is your assessment of where the fighting is right now in Ukraine as we pass that all-important 200-day mark?
Well, it's one more surprise in a war full of surprises. I think both sides are a little bit running against time. We haven't seen since the spring a genuinely successful offensive by either side, which this looks to be. And the shortest range time question is going to be, can the Ukrainians keep enough logistics and supplies coming up to their advancing forces to keep them moving forward before the Russians can reorient enough forces from the south and southeast to move up and block further advances. I'd say on the other side, the question is, can Ukraine make enough gains in a strategic sense to make sure this war is won by the winter? Because when the winter comes, Russia clearly expects European resolve to collapse.
You ask many good questions there. And what would it take for Ukraine to keep up this momentum and to achieve what it needs to achieve by the winter?
So Russia wages war historically in a very predictable way. They move massive amounts of resources to focus on a given spot and then basically smother that spot until victory is declared. They can do this because they have enormous amounts of resources. They have many people, huge manufacturing of weapons, ammunition. But what they don't do is react on the fly very well. Their leadership, their command and control, their society, none of that gives way to the kind of freewheeling democratic types of war you see in Israel, United States, and elsewhere. So Ukraine needs to keep throwing people forward before Russia at the top level can react, because that's where the decisions at this war are being made, and they're being made slowly, always.
And I wonder if you can use this term, what has brought about this change, and has it even turned the tide in the fighting? Is that a fair sentence to even use at this point?
Regionally, yes. I think it's too early to tell. There have been so many inflection points so far. There was the early jubilation after the Russian attack on Kiev failed. There was the later dismay after the sanctions proved less effective than we hoped and the Russians gained ground in the east and the south. Really, we're in a question of days and weeks. We'll know the better answer to that question after a few weeks have passed, and we'll see if the Ukrainians keep advancing, again, before the Russians can respond at the top.
Great to speak to you and to get your analysis. Thank you so much, Dr. Andrew Peake, joining us from the Atlantic Council in Washington, D.C.